Most notably, the UFC events that we've been treated to thus far have seen some brutal knockouts from some of the promotion's best, turning some of them into big stars in the process. Naturally, fans should expect to see more savage finishes as 2022 continues, but it's highly likely that the better knockouts we've already seen will remain memorable once the year comes to an end. Here are the top 10 best knockouts in the UFC thus far into 2022. Number 10, Jamahal Hill vs. Johnny Walker, UFC Fight Night 201. When Jamahal Hill was matched with Johnny Walker in the main event of UFC Fight Night 201 in February, fireworks were always likely to ensue given the history of the two men inside the octagon. Between them, the light heavyweight prospects had a total of 20 knockout finishes, with 7 of them coming in the world's biggest MMA promotion. However, most fans were picking Walker, who was slightly more proven at the top level and had reeled off several highlight reel finishes. Instead, though, it was Sweet Dreams who delivered the finish that fans were hoping to see. Somehow, it was even more brutal than anyone could have expected. The fight was only ticking into the 3rd minute when the two men, who had been exchanging strikes from the outset, threw big right hands at one another at the same time. However, Hill's shot connected first and landed hard on the temple of his Brazilian foe. The fight was over, but Hill added one more coffin nail right hand to seal the deal in what was easily one of 2022's most brutal finishes. To say this was a statement from Sweet Dreams would be an understatement. Number 9, Tai Tuivasa vs. Derek Lewis, UFC 271. While UFC 271's main event of Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker for the middleweight title was a big one, it's probably fair to say that more fans were looking forward to the co-headline bout between heavyweight brawlers Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis. The two men had a laundry list of knockouts between them, and with both men coming off wild finishes in late 2021, it felt like a brutal finish was inevitable in this one. Naturally, the bout delivered the goods, with Tuivasa coming out on top. Early on, it didn't look like the fight would go that way. After some early clinching and exchanging, the Black Beast stunned his Australian opponent with a flurry of shots. But incredibly, Tuivasa took them all and unloaded right back. The fight moved into the 2nd round, and this time, when the two men brawled, it was Bam Bam who landed the better shots, leaving Lewis stunned for a second. When the former title challenger clinched, then Tuivasa was ready and nailed him with a heavy elbow to the side of the head. Lewis crashed down to the ground face first, and Tuivasa didn't even need to follow up, channeling his idol Mark Hunt with a classic walk-off knockout. This was not only the biggest knockout of the Australian's UFC career to date, but it was also the best and stands as one of 2022's best finishes thus far. Number 8, Shavkat Rakhmonov vs. Carlston Harris, UFC Fight Night 200. February's UFC Fight Night 200 didn't have that much fanfare around it going in, but in the end, the event delivered some great action. However, the man who stole the show was welterweight prospect Shavkat Rakhmonov. No man had already picked up 2 victories in the octagon before the event, but most fans believed that fellow prospect Carlston Harris, who was also 2-0 in the promotion, would be able to test him in a way he hadn't been tested before. Unfortunately for Harris, that wasn't the case at all. Instead, Mozambique found itself on the end of one of 2022's most violent and flashy finishes. After a back-and-forth opening round that saw the fighters hit the ground for a brief time, 1 minute remained when Rakhmonov unleashed hell. Nomad whipped his leg around with a hook kick to the head, dropping Harris, and from there, he finished him off with some heavy punches. Number 7, Molly McCann vs. Luana Carolina, UFC Fight Night 204. March's trip to London turned into one of the most memorable UFC events in recent memory, with the promotion giving out an unheard of $50,000 post-fight bonuses due to the number of stellar performances on the card. However, while the likes of Paddy Pimblett, Arnold Allen, and Tom Aspinall delivered star-making performances, the fighter who scored the best knockout was undoubtedly Molly McCann. After largely dominating her Brazilian foe for the first 2 rounds, it looked like the native of Liverpool was probably on her way to another decision victory. Instead, as the 3rd round neared its midway point, that all changed. McCann uncorked a brilliant spinning back elbow, connecting perfectly with Carolina's jaw and switching her lights off instantly. Meatball didn't even need to follow up, as it was clear that Dread was more than done. Number 6, Michael Chandler vs. Tony Ferguson, UFC 274. While 2022 has seen some excellent knockouts up to this point, one stands miles above the rest. It'll probably go down as not only one of the best finishes of this year, but one of the best seen in the octagon, period. UFC 274 was always set to be a stacked card, with 2 title fights at the top. But going in, the clash that had the best chance of stealing the show was the lightweight clash between Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. In the second round though, before Ferguson could even attempt any offense, the former Bellator MMA champion hit him with a front kick to the jaw so powerful that it switched his lights off instantly. Number 5, Jeff Neal Def, Vicente Luque, UFC Vegas 59. Vicente Luque saw his 4-fight win streak come to a screeching halt earlier this year when he suffered a narrow decision loss to Belal Muhammad. Looking to return to winning ways, the silent assassin was matched up with the perpetually underappreciated Jeff Neal in the co-main event of UFC Vegas 59. Vicente Luque was a sizable betting favorite going into the bout, with many opining that he was the better striker. However, he found himself in a whole host of trouble in the very first round, with Neal having tremendous success in the stand-up. Luque is regarded among the most durable welterweights around, but Neal was seemingly in the groove and took over the fight in the final frame. Hands of Steel backed his Brazilian counterpart into the fence and unleashed a relentless series of uppercuts moments before the referee intervened. Number 4, Mohamed Usman Def, Zach Paga, TUF 30 Final. Mohamed Usman, brother of former welterweight champion Kamaru Usman, featured as a participant on the latest season of The Ultimate Fighter, TUF. The budding heavyweight prospect made it to the finals, which were underway on the main card of UFC Vegas 59. Paga was undefeated coming into the fight and was the favorite on the betting lines. During his stint at the TUF house, he stood as the most well-rounded heavyweight and delivered 2 dominant performances en route to the finals. Meanwhile, Usman was largely counted out as a one-dimensional fighter with knockout power. The Nigerian-American was certainly feeling the pressure as he was looking to join his brother on the biggest stage in combat sports, the UFC. After a turbulent first round, Usman won a UFC contract astonishingly as he connected with a razor-sharp left hook second into the second frame, putting Paga to sleep. Number 3, Marlon Vera Def, Dominic Cruz, UFC San Diego. In a classic prospect versus veteran matchup, surging 135-pounder Marlon Vera locked horns with Dominic Cruz, seen by many as the greatest bantamweight of all time, in the main event of UFC San Diego. With both fighters looking to edge closer to a title shot, this pairing was always going to produce fireworks. Dominic Cruz, headlining in his native San Diego, looked incredible in the opening rounds and was posing issues for Marlon Vera with his lateral movement and forward blitzes. However, the former 2-time champion struggled against the power of his younger counterpart and was dropped twice before the 4th round. Vera then turned up the pace and almost halfway through the penultimate round, forced Cruz onto a sublime head kick as the future Hall of Famer fell headfirst into the canvas. Shido pounced on him and landed some vicious ground and pound, prompting the referee stoppage. Number 2, Brian Battle Def, Takashi Sato, UFC Vegas 59. Brian Battle burst onto the scene with his scintillating run on last year's edition of TUF, which saw him rip through the other middleweights on the show to earn a UFC contract. At UFC Vegas 59, Battle dropped down to 170 pounds and made his welterweight debut against Takashi Sato. Battle has emerged as an intriguing and entertaining contender in the welterweight division, wherein he should find himself in some fun matchups. The 27-year-old American has clear potential, and it remains to be seen how far he can go. With such crisp and effective striking, coupled with his grappling prowess, the future is certainly bright for the former TUF champion. Number 1, Liam Edwards Def, Kamaru Usman, UFC 278. Liam Edwards picked up the lone loss of his UFC career way back in 2015 when he suffered a decision loss to Kamaru Usman. Both welterweights went on scorching runs after this bout, with Usman going on to win the title and defend it 5 times, while Edwards endured a horrendous run of bad luck. Edwards compiled a 10-fight unbeaten streak after his defeat to Usman and arguably deserved a title shot back in 2020. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent government-imposed lockdowns forced the Brit to remain on the sidelines, while the reigning champion repeatedly defended his belt. Usman's superior wrestling showed through in the middle rounds, and it felt as though Edwards was en route to another unanimous decision loss to the Nigerian Nightmare. With just under a minute left in the fight, Rocky stunned the crowd in attendance and the entire sporting world as he knocked Usman out cold with a devastating head kick. Leon Edwards' shocking KO sent shockwaves throughout the combat sports fanbase and will forever be regarded among the most significant knockouts in MMA history. Considering his tumultuous background, the lack of respect from the fans, the hurdles he had to overcome, the caliber of fighter he beat, and the way he did, Rocky's championship-winning finish ranks among the greatest head kicks, comebacks, and knockouts ever. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the post notification. Thanks for watching.